Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here once more. And I am back with Andy. Hello, Andy.
Hi, thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you again. We had such an amazing time together, fun time and sharing, hearing your experiences. Whew, man, boy, do you have experiences. So I know there's never enough time to cover all those all the experiences that you have, but we came together to share some more. So thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah.
thank you for
So
creating a space where we can share these
I know,
experiences.
right?
It's really cool that other people are interested, and I love hearing other people's experiences, and it helps validate my own. So
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
appreciate we're able to do this.
That always helps, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah. Helps you realize maybe I'm not so crazy after all. Not, well, I kind of think not in that way anyway. But, 20 years ago, I was having these experiences and there wasn't a lot of people, if any, to talk to. So I'm so happy to see that a lot of people are coming out and talking about their experiences publicly now. And
yeah,
so I appreciate you doing this. Thank you. I think that, anytime we're able to help anyone, even one person, realize, oh, wow, I guess I'm not crazy, then I kind of see that our job is done.
exactly.
So yeah, we were already starting to talk before we even turned the recorder on. And I'm like, wait, let's record this for the peeps. Okay. So you were talking about an experience you had with Lord Shiva, right? Would you like to start with that?
Yeah, so this was one of my during my college years. I was kind of having a soul searching time in my life, and I was one of the first times I had experienced, plant medicine. I I'll kind of do a fairly quick version. A friend had gone to like a barter fair and had come back with these like treasures, which were these, magic mushrooms that had been melted down into like chocolate bars.
Oh, okay.
And so we had planned that we were going to do this. It was the middle of winter, and it was in up in Pullman, Washington. It gets cold and there's snow, and we had planned to do it on a full moon. It just worked out perfectly. Like we got them during the week, and we were going to do them that Saturday night. And it was a full moon, and we were really excited about that. And so we basically got there in the afternoon and ate some of the mushrooms. And I'm a bigger guy, and at that point, I just finished playing college football, and I was a weightlifter, and I just weighing a lot and being a big guy. I could always when it came to drinking alcohol or marijuana or something like that, I just had a higher tolerance than most people. And so my ego assumed that this was going to be true with um, eating magic mushrooms, which wasn't the case. And so, long story short, I ate like double or triple the amount that my friends did. And from my understanding, it usually, before you start having some effects of it, it usually takes maybe 45 minutes or so. And so for me, about 15 minutes in, I was already really feeling something. And so I proceeded to like, my friends lived in a cul-de-sac, kind of duplex, and across one side of the cul-de-sac, it opened up to kind of a green belt, and you could walk over to this park. And so I made the decision to walk over to this park. And um, while I'm there, it's hitting me more and more and more, and I'm becoming more like, oh my gosh, I not only did I eat some, a lot, I like ate too much. And
Mhm.
so I ran over, and there was a playground area, and I stopped, and I was swaying on the swings for a little bit just to have a lot of nervous energy that was built up. And so I proceeded to go over to the green belt and um, actually try to make myself like throw up, because I thought, oh geez, I ate too much of this. It's kind of hitting me really hard. And so I long story short, I was there for a little while, and I ran back, and I all of a sudden kind of came to and realized time had passed. And so I ran back to my friend's duplex, and it turned out I had been gone for like an hour. And so I had like just right there a moment of missing time because I was like at this park, what seemed like for 5 minutes and an hour passed. And so by the time I got my friends, it, was kicking in for them, and they were kind of worried like where I'd been. So when I came back, it was like, he's back, one of these things, a whole group of people. And because there was 5 other guys. And
Were
so,
they laughing the whole time?
they were. I was the one who was having my own little freak out moment, right? It was in my own head, paranoia. And so my friend's like, I mean, I'm not proud to say this, but at the time, my friend's like, dude, you need to just calm down a little bit. He's like, I know what you need. And so it involved a bong. And so I partake in a lot of marijuana. And so I hit this perfect balance where like the mushrooms were kicking in, but I was also calm and I wasn't like panicked at all. And my buddy's like, all right, everybody's feeling good. Let's go outside. Because we planned to just go like spend time in nature, honestly, just, not hurting anything, not hurting anybody, just being one with nature. And so we went out to this green belt. And I mean, it's the first time I look over and like, I can see the aura around the tree and I can see the tree breathing. You know what I mean? Like really, I can see the tree breathing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm seeing at a level I haven't seen before. And I'm just in one with everything. And it was amazing. And there ends up, next to the park is the green belt. And so we kind of were like on the edge of the green belt in the park, and some of the guys start playing on like the monkey bars. And so I'm a big guy, I'm 300 pounds, and I go over there and I'm like superhuman strength. I mean, I'm like doing 1-arm pull-ups and swinging around stuff I haven't done since I was a little kid. And so I'm feeling pretty good, right? And so my buddy goes, hey, there's this merry-go-round. Somebody go lay on it. And so I just instinctively went over and I laid down in the middle of this kid's merry-go-round. You push them. And my buddy starts pushing me. And I have my head in the middle and I have my arms wrapped around the poles and my feet kind of towards the outside of the circle. And so he starts pushing me and I'm going fast. And I start going really fast. And right then I'm open my eyes as I'm spinning in the centrifugal force, right? And I open my eyes and the clouds like part, okay? And all of a sudden the full moon is right there. And I feel, Sharon, like this is a spotlight on my soul. Like the universe is looking down on me, okay, in this moment. Because I feel so interconnected to everything. And I'm spinning. And so I start hearing this really loud sound internally in the back of my head, like whoa, 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 like really crescendoing louder and louder till it's like a freight train, like inside my head. All of a sudden there's just like a suction cup sound. And then there's nothingness, just nothing. And all of a sudden I kind of come to, and it's me in my energetic body that looks the exact same, like right out of Doctor Strange or something. And I'm hovering above the planet Earth, looking down. And so I instantly panic because I think, oh my God, I died. Oh my God, I died. Because I realize I'm not in my body and I'm hovering above the planet Earth, looking down on the Earth. And there's like black space, stars, and just me and the planet Earth looking down. And so I'm really amazed. And my mind, for whatever, I'm still consciously thinking like I normally do. And I start to kind of go into this negative headspace for like, oh my God, I died. And my parents are going to have a funeral. And they're going to be like, oh my God, he was a good kid, but he went to college and he did drugs and he died. And so I'm like having these really crazy thoughts, okay? And as I'm like kind of in my own like feeling negative and thinking I died, I'm looking at the planet Earth and I have this like X-ray vision type where I can zoom in just by looking at the Earth. And I see it rotating like North America, South America coming around. And I look at North America.
I have one question real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. Is it a globe?
It is a globe. It's not flat. It was not flat.
Thank you. Just wanted to, okay. It's not flat. Okay.
Yeah. And so I as it's rotating around, I see like New York and Atlanta on the eastern seaboard of North America, and I can see them. They stick out like a sore thumb. They're glowing because it's like this negative grid, energy grid on the planet. And I'm like, as I'm zooming in and I see the grid of the city on the Earth, it almost looks to me like it's like a skin cancer on the Earth. And so I start to feel, because I'm already feeling bad, like I died and in this negative headspace. And so I start to view somehow by, as I'm looking, like humanity and our cities and everything and what we're doing to the earth, I start to feel like we're a cancer on the earth. And so I'm starting to feel really bad about myself that I died, but also humanity as a whole from what, not just from what I visually see. And so I'm really overwhelmed. And so I start rotating my soul hovering there, regular size, 6 foot, tall size, astral body, energy. I start rotating unbeknownst to me, like I'm not controlling it, out towards like open space. So I'm no longer looking at the planet Earth. I'm just looking at the blackness and stars in the background.
Yeah.
And so for a long time, I'm just feel like I'm there in nothingness, like detached from being a human, detached from who I am, detached from all of everything. And all of a sudden, there's kind of like, I get the sense that like I've gotten someone's attention, or like someone wants my attention. And there's kind of like this blue swirling energy and then a long tunnel. So like I'm looking down this very long tunnel of blue. And I see this being sitting there like out in space, like
Mhm.
giant cosmic level, like bigger than the sun,
Wow.
like in the distance. And it's kind of like the whole hue and like visual setting is like black with like a purplish. And I just see the outline of this being, and I see it sitting like cross-legged on this like carpet, this like animal skin carpet. And I see this black hair, and then I see like a snake up around its neck, and then I see it's holding something, and then there it is, the face, like I make contact with the eyes of this cosmic being, and when it looks at me, I feel like I'm in its tractor beam. Like now that it looked at me and I made eye contact, I can't look away if I wanted to. Like it's focused its energy on me, and so I'm like overwhelmed. And so this being puts its hand up. It's, by the way, the skin is like a bluish color of this being, and the hair's black, longer. And there's a moment when I'm looking at it in its eyes, I can't tell if it's male or female because of the black long hair. I can't tell if it's male or female. And I'm getting a weird energy where it's balanced. The energy is not really, it's male and female, not male or female. Okay.
Right.
And so, but so then it puts up its hand, and literally a blue beam of light comes out of its hand and hits me in my heart chakra, like right in my chakra, and it zaps me, like recalibrates my whole body. So I go from being in this panic, like feel like I'm dead and feel like humanity's killing the earth, very low, fearful, unhappy state, to completely blissful. And so now that I'm blissful, I'm just like amazed at what I'm seeing and what's happening, but also curious. And so all of the being, once the laser kind of stops coming out of its hand, and I'm calibrated and I feel good, it looks at me and nods its head. And I get the sense where it's like, are you okay? And so I nod my head, yes. And when I nod my head, it changes from this cosmic giant being in the sky looking down at me to a regular size, like 6 foot person standing directly next to me, like we were standing on a line looking the same direction.
Wow.
So all of a sudden, he's standing next to me. And so I come to, because as part of him changing size, we've changed shape. We're not above the planet Earth anymore. We've zoomed out and we are looking at the whole solar system. And so it's like we're standing from above looking down at our solar system and all the planets. And so I like come to and I look to my left because he's standing there, regular size, and he nods and looks forward. And so since he looks forward, I look forward, and he tunes me in to the sun. And when he tunes me into the sun, I hear the sound that the sun makes, like in space, like the actual sound of the sun. And I realize, of course, I'm during this experience that everything is consciousness, because when I'm tuning me into the sun, I realize the sun is alive. The sun has its own like soul to it, if you will, consciousness. The sun is also a portal. And I realized that like it's a connection point through these higher dimensions. And that there's beings that come right through the sun because they're light beings, they don't get burned by the heat and the gravity of the magnetism in the sun. And so I'm realizing all this. And as I'm looking at this, I see this, and I don't know what dimensional level being it is, but I see like a 14th dimensional light being, fire being, walking on the surface of the sun as I'm looking at it. And that being stops and looks over at me and this being that's giving me this tour. And I'm like, I like can't believe what I'm seeing. And so then all of a sudden we zoom out, and I go to Mercury, and I hear Mercury, what it sounds like. And then we go to Venus, and then we go to Earth. And when we get to Earth, all of a sudden I realize, oh my God, you know, I've heard people say Gaia Sophia, Mother Earth. I've heard people say that. And I realized, you know, the Earth had a spirit, and we were all connected. But like, I actually realized, oh my God, it is a feminine planet. It's a life-giving planet. And I realized that for the first time. And I realized, like, I felt like Mother Earth herself in that moment acknowledged me, like she knew I was one of hers. And I was standing there with this being. So I got even more emotional. And so then all of a sudden we go to Mars, and I realized Mars would be if Mother Earth is like a 15-year-old girl, Mars would be like a 78-year-old old warrior planet that's like beaten up. And I felt the masculine energy, and I felt like the war that had happened. And that even tuned me in when I was tuned into Mars to like cosmic memories I've had of what happened on Mars and how it got blown up and what was going on. And so we get to Mars, and we start to go a little farther. And then I see that there's the asteroid belt. And then I get tuned into like the planet that was destroyed that made the asteroid belt. And to be honest, I kind of started getting overwhelmed. And so in that moment, I'm processing all of this and how big it all is and how everything's alive and conscious and how interconnected I am personally to things that have happened in this realm at these different levels. And so I'm overwhelmed, and I kind of start to like have this panic moment again, like a panic attack. And all of a sudden, this being that's guiding me is giant, cosmic level in the sky, bigger than the sun again, looking down at me. And it's like a blackish and bluish tint around it, but everything else, or purplish and blue tint, and everything else is black. And it puts its hand out for the second time. A blue beam of light hits me again, recalibrates me, and I feel blissful again. And so for the second time, it nods, and I nod, and all of a sudden we shift out a higher level, and it's standing next to me, just a regular size again, like my tour guide, like taking me to see things. And so he's standing there, and he looked forward, and so I look forward, and we're now at this zoomed out level where we're seeing the whole Milky Way galaxy. And I can see like highlights where Earth is and the little spiral tip that we're on. And I can see all of these, like, I can see supernovas happening and stars being born, like being created. I can see the beings creating the stars, like at this higher God and goddess level. And then I see things happening and stars exploding. I start to see all these little things moving, and I kind of, as I zoom in and focus on it, I see that there's these like cosmic armadas. These like there's immigration happening at different levels from different conscious beings throughout throughout our galaxy.
What
And
do
so
you
I
mean?
see all of. Go ahead.
You mean beings landing on planets and
Like
okay,
terraforming planets
terraforming? Okay, gotcha.
and
Yeah.
whole like galactic highways, like I-5,
Oh, yes, yes.
literally,
Okay.
where there's these giant passageways everybody's traveling on.
Wow.
And that there's beings that are like monitoring the passageways, and I'm just like literally as I'm zooming in, all these things happening everywhere as we're looking down.
Wow.
And so
Yeah.
again, from after just watching this for a while, I'm just absorbing it and hearing the tones and the energies and the complexity of it all. I'm like equal parts amazed and overwhelmed again, because I'm like, oh my God. And I even say to this being kind of with me, like, I said something like, what is the point? Like, what does it all mean? Why? Kind of. I don't know. And so I was kind of just struggling with how big it all was and how much was happening,
Mhm. Uh-huh.
by seeing this. And so for the when I said that to him, I go, what does it all mean? All of a sudden there was a shift. And all of a sudden it was just me in this like black void. If you've seen Stranger Things, I don't know if you
I
watched
haven't.
that show.
No. Uh-uh.
There's a girl 11 in the show. There's a couple of points where she's in this like black void where it's just like blackness in her.
Okay.
Well, I like shifted to this higher level, and it was, yeah. And so there was just blackness in me. And when I
Okay.
shifted up to that level, I like lost or just disconnected from part of like my identity of who I am here as Andy,
Mhm.
and soul and earth. I like disconnected from all those worries, I guess, or
Yeah.
troubles. Because remember, I was kind of feeling overwhelmed, like, what does it all mean and why and what's the point? And I like, just disconnected from everything, and I was up in this void. And when I'm up in the void, I was just kind of at peace, and there was nothing to do, nothing to worry about, and I was fine. And then it was like the moment you think of something, all of a sudden that thing appears in the distance. And I thought, like, what does it all mean? What does it all mean? So in the distance, all of a sudden, I see this light, like a few miles out in the distance, and just by like kind of focusing my energy and looking over at it, it like pulls towards me like a conveyor belt almost. Like all of a sudden, I'm right in it, and I see what looks like it sounds stupid, just like a little, what would be like a gardening shed. Okay, just like somebody would have out in their yard, like a gardening shed.
Okay.
There's the black void, and the color palette is still like everything's black, but I see the edges and it's kind of purplish, and I can see the outline of what looks like a gardening shed. And I go to walk up to this gardening shed, and it has like a little awning coming off of it, and like a little bench where somebody like has pots or something. And so like as I go to like walk up to it or kind of just go and look, because I'm kind of like, what is this? What is this? And then as I get closer to it, I'm like, this seems kind of familiar. This seems familiar. And so then all of a sudden I'm right there at it, and I realize there's these big discs, like this, like the size of like a big plate that you would have on your table, or maybe like the size of like, on the potted plants, you would have those like things that catch the water underneath the potted plant.
Mhm.
It's like that size, these big disc things, like all over as I went inside this little area. And so I stepped up to look down on the bench, like what all these things were on the bench, because I didn't really understand all these discs and plates stacked everywhere. So when I picked one of them up, inside of this disc was like um, a spiral, like Milky Way galaxy.
Oh.
Like each one of those had a Milky Way galaxy of its own within it. And it was, at first I thought I thought it wasn't like a snow globe. It was like the real thing. Like as I picked up this one and looked into it, I could see what was happening in that realm. And I could see it was a creation. And I literally got the sense that like this was Source's workshop, where like new galaxies and multiverses and things are thought up and created. And there were just stacks of them sitting everywhere. And I got the sense that I had been there before. And so I'm only in what seems like just a split second, I'm in there, I see this, and I pick it up and I look at this and I'm like, oh my God, this is a spiral galaxy. Oh my God, I've been here before. And so there's a shift back, and I'm back out in like space with this giant God being looking down at me. And so for the third time, I'm overwhelmed after seeing this creationary plane of existence and this little hut with creational galaxies in little plates and discs in them. So I'm overwhelmed by that. So I'm back out in space, and there's this giant God being, and it's looking down. For the third time, it puts out its hand. The blue beam of light comes out from its palm. It hits me in my chest. It like recalibrates my whole body to where I'm completely blissful. And so I'm just there for a moment. And there's that, if you ever meditate, there's that moment like in between breaths where everything is completely quiet. And it's kind of like in between the heartbeat, you feel like you're connected to everything. I felt like I was connected to everything. And so I open my eyes, and this being is looking at me very lovingly. And I kind of telepathically think to it, "Are you God?" And it smiles, and our perspectives changed. And I was that giant being looking down at myself hovering above the planet Earth. And I stayed in that moment where I felt like I was God for a moment, and then it snapped back, and all of a sudden I'm back in my body looking at this being, and it smiles at me, and then I snap back, and I'm spinning down on this merry-go-round, and my friend's pushing me. And so I sit up, and I'm like, "Stop, stop, stop." And so my friend, it takes him a sec, because he had me going so fast on this thing. It takes him a sec to like slow me down by like holding it. And so I stood up, and my buddies come around, "Are you okay? You okay?" And I'm like, "How long was I gone for? How long was I gone?" And like, "What do you mean?"
What
And
do
I'm
you
like,
mean?
"How long was I gone for?" I'm like, "How long was he spinning me?" And they're like, "I don't know, like 15, 20 seconds.
Oh, wow.
But I was like outside of time. I was like out in
Yeah.
beyond the Milky Way. I was above. I was where galaxies and multiverses were created. I went up
Wow.
so high. So anyway, this happens again. I'm in my 40s now, so this happened 20 plus years ago. And so at that time, the internet wasn't quite as good as it is now. And again, was I was at that time of my life, I should have said this at the beginning, I was going through a lot of like anti-organized religion beliefs. Even though I knew we were all connected, I openly would like say I was more of an atheist just because I was so against the Catholic Church and stuff like that. Not that I was against Mary or Jesus or
No, I
Michael,
get it.
right?
I get
But
it. The
that's what I
Vatican.
was
The
rebelling against,
Vatican.
the control system that I thought
Right.
felt, and different things. And so anyway, I wanted to say that like at this point in my life, I was more an atheist.
Yeah.
And so to have this experience, and so then I'm searching for the days after that on the internet, like blue being in space, blue God in space. I'm trying to think like, what do I type into? Who was that? And so then all of a sudden I come to this picture, and I'm like, that's it. That's who it was.
Wow.
And it was Lord Shiva, one of the primary Hindu gods, one of the big three.
Yeah.
Krishna, Shiva, and Brahm are like the
Yeah.
big three in Hinduism.
That's so
And
funny. I
so
wore my Ganesh pendant today.
oh, that's awesome.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. And
Nothing's funny. Yeah.
so what I've since connected the dots on through meditation and through other experience and talking to people, I believe that the reason that an atheist white guy in college doing mushrooms, why would Lord Shiva come to me? Why would I have that experience? To me, that only more validates the experience. I wasn't out there
Yeah.
trying to connect with that. I didn't even know who the hell that was.
Right.
And so I have since learned that this is a whole soul. We talk about soul groups. Have you ever heard about like the different rays? Like I believe that
Yeah.
I found out as part of my soul mission here and who I am and who I've connected to. I feel like I'm a blue ray, and I believe that Lord Shiva, even just like Mother Mary or Jesus or Archangel Michael, Lord Shiva is actually an activator of the blue ray. And because then Kali, the kind of warrior part of Lord Shiva, the feminine,
Yeah.
a lot of us blue rays have in our past on the feminine side have experienced trauma, what I've been told. Like people were witches in past lives, so for our knowledge or for thinking differently, we were attacked and abused. And I know I have that in my family line, specifically in my mother's family line, like kind of the white witches that were attacked. And so I was kind of told that there's a wounded feminine aspect that Kali represents, that Lord Shiva kind of is showing like as a Blu-ray. I don't know if this all makes sense, but kind of representing that divine masculine that is balanced in masculine and feminine that have coming together equally. Because remember, I told you at the beginning that when I'm looking at his face, I can't tell if he's male or female because he's perfectly balanced.
Mm-hmm.
He has the warrior, which I'm a warrior.
Mm-hmm.
I have that, but you also have to be balanced, masculine and feminine. A lot of warriors go hyper masculine and they're not balanced in the divine feminine as well. And so there's an imbalance. And so I read a lot into like what he says and what he represents. And I feel like there was a lot of meaning, but why the universe, why Great Spirit had Lord Shiva come to me, even though I didn't know who that was and what that was about.
Wow.
Well,
That's fantastic. That is dang. That
yeah.
dang, that is amazing.
You know,
Yeah.
and so I feel like there's no coincidence why people come to you. You have a connection to them,
Oh,
you
totally.
know?
I love
Yeah.
how he switched you, or he or she, switched the two perspectives when you said, "Are you God?"
Yeah.
The one mind thing, right? The God mind, that we're all
I,
the one
I
mind.
really got that, here I'm looking for somebody externally to be God, right? Because
Right.
that's the human part of me. And
Mm-hmm.
his answer is, you're me and I'm you.
I'm you.
You're
Yeah.
looking at me like I'm this amazing God. I'm just you at a higher level,
Yeah.
you
So
know?
cool.
And they're looking at us so lovingly because we agreed to come down into such a low level to have experience, right?
Right.
Because like what we learned down here, the good, the bad, and the ugly goes into the collective Akashic records and everybody learns from it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, so I have to ask you, when you set out to have a magic mushroom journey, I bet you didn't expect anything like that.
No, I
Had
did
you
not.
done mushrooms before that at all?
I had done mushrooms one time before that, and I
Okay.
didn't eat very much at all, and I didn't have anything near. Didn't That was a breakthrough. I ate too
Yeah.
much. I mean, I even the point where I was like trying to make myself throw up at the beginning, and I had missing time for there. Like I don't know what was going on, but I ate way too much. I
Yeah.
don't encourage people to go do that. Like I know everybody wants to have an experience, but after that experience over the next 8 years, I said maybe 3 or 4 times. I tried to do mushrooms again, and all of them were negative experiences. I kind of felt like you're not really supposed to be doing this, or it wasn't the right dynamic of people I was around.
That makes a
Um,
big difference. The
yeah, because that
intention
you
and
really
everything. Yeah.
opens you up. And if some
Mm-hmm.
people got, if they're unhealed, they have their own little energetic demons things attached to them that comes up during a session. You don't need to be really careful who you're around and what you're doing with and what the intentions are. And I feel really lucky because my intention at that point really was looking for like what's the meaning of life. I was kind of like I knew as a college kid, I was going there. My parents, it was like had to get a job so I can get a good job and make it in life. It was also all about like getting ready for the work, sleep, eat, work life cycle, right? And I wasn't really thrilled about that, frankly. I wanted to just enjoy myself and have fun at that point in my life. And so I'm like, what is the real meaning of this? We can't just live these lives for nothing. I had an awakening as a kid, and then like in order to have a regular human experience, I feel like I kind of shut off a lot of my gifts and memories and different things so I could just be a regular person and kind of have to survive and live and go. And then experiences like this Shiva one reminded me that there's like we're in a box and there's outside the box. There's a lot more going on
Yeah.
here.
So Andy, after you had that experience, um, did it change your perspective on anything? I imagine, how could it not, kind of
It
thing.
did. It
Yeah.
did. Yeah. I go back to that story quite often because I have to, like, everybody, it's hard to, it's a challenge to be on Earth with all the things happening, the energies, being an empath, being able to feel other people's emotions, or realizing, it's a challenge to be on Earth for various reasons. And so there's times where I will go back to the fact that, like, I plan this life, even if things don't go exactly the way my ego wants them to, or I want them to. I'm learning things. Like, I guess just having that experience from kind of like, instead of asking outside myself for God, even though I know there's a great spirit or a higher power that we're all a part of, just reminding reminding that, like, you are part of that higher power, and and it's no coincidence you're here. So even if you're going through something challenging, there's probably a lesson that needs to be learned here.
Exactly.
Just
Yeah.
kind of having that, like, greater, like, nobody's mad at me, nobody's punishing me because I had to stay 2 hours late at work and do this project I didn't want to do, right? Like, this is just life challenging me, and for I'm gonna learn something from it. So
Yeah. I like that.
yeah.
Yeah. So not taking everything so seriously and looking at it as a negative place so
Yeah.
much.